Welcome to Tuesday time, number 4, the Fast and the Fourious. Do I feel bad about that joke? Not really. I actually feel really, really good about it. So here we go. This is your vocab and your idiom of the week and all that good stuff. Now the words this week, we have context, dialogue, permutation, perception, permeable, perennial, trite, comely, diligent, and jeer. Now, first let's talk about context. It's a noun. It's the set of circumstances or facts that surround a particular event, situation, whatever. It's the big picture. It's the whole situation. It's not one little piece of it, right? Usually when we say that someone has to see a thing in context, they're seeing an isolated part and they're making judgment too soon. We'll say, well, wait a second. You need to understand the context. You need to know everything that's going on around it so you can understand it. This happens all the time with politicians or whatever. Their words are taken out of context and they'll sound very bad, but then when you hear the whole thing, you go, oh, actually what they said was maybe very smart or whatever. Now, we could say Mr. Bowen and Mrs. Douglas. Miss Douglas often seem to be acting mean to each other. And out of context, it would look like we are just terrible, mean people, and you shouldn't treat your colleagues that way. But in the context of us being friends and having actually a lot of respect for each other, we realize that really they're just teasing and that it's part of their relationship, because that's kind of how they do. They're basically brother and sister at this point. Now, then we have trite. Trite is an adjective. It means lacking in freshness and effectiveness because of overuse. It's usually referring to something that is said or something that is done. It means worn out or cliche. We'll often talk about this in your writing. If you use an expression like, I don't know, easy come, easy go, that's a cliche. It's trite. It's worn out. Slang gets trite very quickly. The dab is already worn out. Don't dab. Stop dabbing. All right? Even Cam Newton stopped dabbing at this point. Comely. It's an adjective. It's pleasing in appearance and attractive. Example, I couldn't take my eyes off the comely person in the commercial. Now, it's used for either gender, although it does seem to be used mostly for things that are either female or feminized in some way. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means attractive. A jeer. It's a noun and it's a verb. It's a cruel verbal taunt when it's noun. As a verb, it's to make that remark, okay? It's usually yelled or loudly spoken. You don't whisper a jeer, all right? You shout at someone. So you could say, the Raiders fans jeered at the other team to hide how painful it is to love the Raiders. Ha, take that, Raiders fans. Go Broncos. Next word we have is diligent. It's an adjective. It's to be constant in your efforts to achieve something. It's always and completely hardworking. Now, there's a noun form of it. It's diligence. If someone has diligence, they are a diligent person, right? So it's completely hardworking. You don't quit. You keep going. That's what that is. Dialogue. Dialogues are first of our Latin root words this week. It's a noun. It's the thing, it's the conversation, what is spoken between two people. We're going to talk a lot about dialogue in class when we talk about fiction. It's the things that the characters say to each other. Now, in real life, you also can say, this is a dialogue, and you're reporting what they said. Sometimes people use it as a verb, as in, let's dialogue about this. But it's pretty much used as a verb by terrible people, all right? People who are annoying and who I don't want to talk to. As soon as someone says, you know what, maybe we should dialogue about this, I stop listening because I think that's obnoxious. Now, the way that it relates to our Latin roots, dia means through or between. So you can see then with this between, it is the words between these two people. Permutation and perception are up next. Now, per means through, or it means completely. So it can mean like, well, you'll see, completely is going to be a helpful thing here. Permutation is a noun. It's a complete change in character or condition. It's an enormous transformation from one thing into another, and it's the state of this other thing, right? So if I have another version of something, that is a permutation of the previous thing. If I have from a rough draft to a final draft, those are different permutations of the same idea. They're totally different, and it's a transformation from one thing to the next. All right, perception is a noun. It's the awareness of objects and ideas and so on. It's to be completely aware of what's going on. Now, it's sometimes used as in the adjective form for being perceptive. That's for just being generally kind of aware of what's going on or having a lot of knowledge and observing things really well. Permeable. Again, we have our through and completely here with per. Permeable is an adjective. It describes something that can be permeated. That would be a verb, all right? Now, to be permeated is something that can be easily passed through, right? Think about like a screen door. The wind permeates right through it, right? It goes right through. The wind does, and it blows dust into your house. Water does. So it's usually used to describe whether or not water can pass through something. But it can be used more creatively to say that something is passing through or filling something else. The sunshine permeated the room, right? It came in through the windows and went through everything in the room and filled it up with sunshine. Now you can have it start with either semi or im, meaning semi-permeable or impermeable, and that would mean that it's either kind of permeable, like semi-permeable, or it's not permeable at all, and that would be impermeable. Perennial. It's an adjective. It means lasting for an indefinite, very long time. Now, generally when you see this, it's going to be for plants. So it'll talk about trees that are perennials, where in winter, I mean in the desert we don't really have winter, but in winter they don't lose their leaves. Think about like pine trees, like a Christmas tree, right? It stays green all year round. It's a perennial, right? Plants that come back up that you don't have to replant season to season. If you have tomato plants, something like that. Are those perennials? Anyway, the ones that keep coming back year after year, those are perennials. But you can also use it more creatively than that. Her perennial beauty would mean she's always beautiful no matter what. Someone who's a perennial favorite, you like them all the time, right? In sports, they'll talk about, like, right now in college football, Alabama is a perennial favorite. They've been the favorite to win the championship the last, like, 10 years in a row. Mostly because their coach is, I'm pretty sure he's evil. All right, so here's the idiom of the week. Barking up the wrong tree is to come to the wrong conclusion or to be working in a counterproductive fashion. Now, how this came to be is to think about hunting dogs. If you look at the picture on the right, you can see a bunch of beagles, Bowman's favorite dog. Those are hunting dogs. When they find the animal, they would chase it. It'll go up a tree, and then they stand at the bottom of the tree, and they bark so that their owners can come along and get down the fox, and that's the end of the hunt, right? If they're barking up the wrong tree, they've gone to the wrong tree where the animal isn't there. They can't get what they want barking up that tree, hence they're barking up the wrong tree. So he kept thinking the answer was complicated, but he was barking up the wrong tree. Sometimes the solution is really simple. Sometimes life is really simple, but you just find yourself barking up the wrong tree. All right, those are the words of the week. That's the academic word of the week, the idiom of the week. You got it all set. Good luck. We'll see you on the flip side, and we'll quiz it up. Have a good week.